Hello, everyone, and welcome to a follow-up Monday afternoon quarterbacking on the Sunday stream. Thank you for joining me. Hope you're all doing well today. I'm not going to spend too much time today on this. I just wanted to rant a little bit and do a little follow-up extra to see if there's anything of interest left in this presentation we started yesterday. Now you'll notice off to the right of me here is a please stand by screen. Well, I put that up because those of you who are watching in the future that don't want to listen to me ranting and just want to get to the remainder of the presentation, as it were. Well, I put that up there so that you can see in the little timeline on YouTube when my rant stops and the actual thing will begin. So you'll know right where it is. I just a helpful tool tip there. Before I start, though, a few hellos. Eric Peters, Keeverdam, Jaeger Pony, good afternoon, wherever you are. All right, so as does happen from time to time, I end up thinking about the subject matter that I put onto a broadcast after I finish the broadcast. And for some reason, yesterday's little presentation just didn't leave my mind. And I kept thinking about it. And I kept thinking about how both embarrassing and infuriating it is. And I will briefly explain why. For the sake of argument, I haven't done any research on our primary speaker from yesterday, so I don't know all her bona fides. But I will stipulate to what little was described of her career and her credentials in yesterday's video, that she has spent something like 30 years studying or being engrossed in these subjects or related subjects to whiteness, that she has published or co-authored. I forget, it was either a book or a paper or whatever. I will accede, if that is the word I'm looking for, that she is a practiced and professional academic with probably several different credentials on this subject and has spent decades looking at it. So what the heck did we see yesterday? In a 30-minute span of time, in order to talk about something that you have put decades, claimed decades, into studying and analyzing, what did we get? Nothing. When it came down to actually defining the very term in the presentation's title, we got a list of adjectives and PowerPoint card after PowerPoint card of nothing. No examples, no information, no definition. And what happened when the host of the presentation just sort of mused off into the ether about what other causes there might be to disparities in demographic outcomes in schools? Well, our primary speaker just returned with verbal diarrhea, putting up a wall of balderdash that said nothing about anything. And of course, the host had no choice but to sort of accept it and say, do you understand? Like, yeah, she understands. What's she going to say? She doesn't? I mean, it's embarrassing. If I'd spent 30 years studying a particular subject, if I had staked my name and reputation on something, and that's the best I could come up with, given 30 minutes of an uninterrupted platform, I would feel ashamed, honestly. It is quite incredible. But so there's that point. But here's the other thing, too. As I mentioned yesterday, the organization that our speaker is ostensibly attached to and or is advising is a federally funded organization that is itself advising schools. So taxpayer money in one way, shape, or form went into what we saw yesterday. And it is being accepted somehow and used somehow in educating children. And, you know, if I had presented something like that to a high school teacher, if I had taken that PowerPoint presentation and I was supposed to give a report on whiteness, and that's what I put forward, now I'm not an English teacher. I am an English major. But as an English major, I have gone through the paces on writing a paper, writing a presentation, revising it, refining it, and putting it forward as something that's legible at the very least, right? Now, that's not to say I haven't written my share of BS before just to get through a class, but more often than not, the teacher saw through the BS. But what we saw yesterday, I wouldn't even give a C. But anyway, that's just my rant. Things I was thinking about after watching what we watched yesterday, which was just something else. What can I tell you? But that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up from where we left off yesterday, going back about 40 seconds or so. And we were getting to the point where presumably we were going to be given advice or tips on how to disrupt whiteness. So now I will switch screens that I am sharing so that those of you in the future can know that we are now moving into the actual presentation of things. And with that, I'm going to start off. I'm not going to go for too long. I'm going to go for as long as it keeps my interest, and 30 minutes, whichever comes first, I suppose. So here we go. If you don't know what happened yesterday, all I can do is advise you to watch the first part if you can stomach it. I can understand if you don't. But purportedly, at this stage of the game, we're going to be told how to disrupt the whiteness that white people possess inherently. So here we go.
A way that structural arrangements favor whiteness. And then as you're thinking about those things, what's easiest for you to get your head around, like what's easiest to understand and to see, what's hardest, where, if anywhere, do you tend to take action, and where is it hard for you to see or act? So this is really an opportunity to just share your own observations and experiences of the ways of thinking about whiteness that we've talked about to this point, and the things that you, feel are that, you have more capacity or strength towards, or that you struggle with.
Okay, so that's the setup, is that we're into the audience participation portion of this. Now, I do remember I cut out a long piece of silence somewhere in this video. This might be it. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
We would love to hear some voices.
Right.
On this. I think it's going to be a really rich conversation.
Oh, I think it's going to be a rich conversation too. I can't wait. Show me the gold.
All right, I'll start again to get us going.
Okay.
I'm Dina Wade Artley.
Hi.
I'm she, her.
Are you she, her? Okay.
I like one way you notice white culture in your local context.
Yes.
Just recently, we have been questioned about why we even have equity in the schools. It's not new. It's we have groups, local groups, and I'm sure they're all over Minnesota and other places that are getting together to rally against equity and I forget what the other thing is.
Is that what they're rallying against? Well, I suppose, given the fact that equity is functionally defined as equality of outcome, and that the standards in schools are being lowered so that everybody comes out with the same grade and so on. I think I can see why people would be against equity in that iteration, if that's what you mean. But then I don't have a whole lot of hope we're going to get much definition here. So I can only go off of what I understand equity to mean in schools.
All of the critical race theory and all of that, people are really coming out against us having equity for everyone.
Yeah, equity for everyone. And did you listen to this presentation where our speaker was classifying thoughts and motivations and qualities of people on the basis of their race? Can you see why some people might have some exceptions to that notion being pushed into schools? I don't know, but I'm just having some civil rights notions in my head.
So.
Okay, so wait. So white culture in your local community is a group that is against critical race theory. That is your example of white culture in your local area. Okay. Noted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dina.
Uh-huh. Really? Okay. That's it. Next. Anybody? Bueller? How
Go
long can we
ahead,
go?
Laura. Thank you.
I'm Laura Gersib. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. She,
Hi.
her.
Uh-huh.
I identify as a white woman.
Do you? Well, that must have been a real tough decision on your part.
And I have 2 adopted daughters who are Black. And so one thing that I've been more aware of this past year is just awareness that I have an assumption that if I have something happen and I go to tell an authority that I would be believed, and seeing through their lens that is not always their experience. And so becoming more aware of that privilege in my own self, of that someone would believe me if I said something had happened.
So you think that other people think that Black people are untrustworthy? Okay. Did this actually happen to your children? Can you give us like the circumstances under which this occurred? Or is it just something that you believe? Okay.
And I guess I would echo that last part too. Today, our governor came out and made some statements against critical race theory. And it's just so disheartening to see how actively people are against equity and actively trying to push it down.
Yes, push down equity. Yeah, define equity again for us. Talk about what has been presented in this very slideshow so far. White culture. Monolithing people on the basis of race. Can you understand why people might not find that a very attractive notion? And most especially in the context of education. I would like you to look up Brown v. Board of Education, and I would like you to look up Title 6. Yes, I believe it's Title 6. My bad. I think of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. I think Title 6 defined the public funding in schools, or federal funding, I believe. If I'm off on that, I apologize. Either Title 6 or Title 7. Title 7 might have been employment. Sometimes even I get mixed up. Either way.
Thank you, Laura.
I think it was Title 6. Pretty sure it was Title 6. I'm not a scholar. Anybody else? Anybody else want to?
I've recently. Hi, I'm Erin Sanborn. I'm a doctoral research assistant at the Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center.
Hi, Erin.
And I was a former 7th and 8th grade English teacher. And I've recently been thinking about and reflecting back just who I was as a teacher.
Okay.
And how I would frame and determine what was allowed and not allowed, or what was like I used the word professional a lot back in the day in my teaching career, and so like what is professional?
Yeah. I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see where this is going.
And then just also really reflecting and thinking back on times that I saw practices, because I was somebody who was in a position to facilitate a lot of learning surrounding equity, and I was on a district equity team.
Wait, I thought you said, didn't you say you're a 7th and 8th grade teacher? Wait, are you an equity teacher or are you a basic studies teacher? What, did I miss something?
But also simultaneously stood silently a lot of times when I saw my students exposed to very violent practices.
Very violent practices, like what?
And
like what?
just kind of recognizing that, and
like
just thinking
what?
through now that I know what I know and am who I am today.
Like what?
How I might do things differently if I was in the same position, or
like
am I doing
what?
things differently right now? Even
What? Is it impossible for anyone in this sphere of existence to give an example? I know I'm a broken record, but I'm only a broken record because it keeps happening. It doesn't matter who I'm looking at. It doesn't matter what organization or what expert or whatever else. 9 times out of 10, we never get an example. They just throw things out into the ether, and I'm just supposed to what? Believe them? Not have anything to compare and contrast what you're saying with what your story is? Violent practices in the high school in which you taught. What constitutes a violent practice? What do you mean? Good gravy. Thank you, Jaeger Pony. I used to be a teacher, but then I took an ideology to the knee. I mean, are you serious right now? I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry. If you position yourself as an expert, as a professional, in anything in particular, and you're going to start talking informatively about something that is germane to the presentation, you must provide an example. Okay? You do not get to make that move. I cannot take you seriously as an adult if you do not give an example, if you do not explain what you are talking about. Especially in this particular instance, when this is supposed to be informative. This whole webinar is supposed to be informative. If you have a direct personal experience that is relevant to this, you have to describe it. Don't give any names, that's fine. But you have to at least tell us what you're talking about. Violent practices in your high school that you stood by silently for. What does that mean? Because I've heard recently, several times, that words are violence. So could that be it? I don't know. I have to use my imagination. And as Han Solo said, I can imagine quite a bit.
And do you have some ideas about that you want to share, Erin?
Any ideas after all your experience?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No. Yes and no.
Is that like being a little pregnant? Do you have anything you'd like to share? Yes and no. Like, what?
I mean, I don't, I'm not exactly sure recently. Well, okay. One, I'm not exactly sure recently why two particular incidents came up.
Oh, okay. You're going to give us some examples now? Okay. Well, I will retract my prior complaint about this particular speaker if she's about to give us some specific examples.
And in order to kind of protect the individuals on the call that are persons of color, I don't feel 100% exposing those individuals to the experiences, because they were pretty violent against both instances against students who identified as Black.
So you, a white lady, are looking out for the delicate feelings of non-white people because you know that they can't handle whatever story you're about to tell because of their race. Okay, well, I hope I can take it.
That I wasn't necessarily a part of it, but I was there witnessing it.
Okay, so you witnessed something terrible. Okay, well, go ahead.
And silently disagreeing with it within myself.
Silently disagreeing with it within yourself. And?
But not actively doing anything.
What was it?
And
what happened?
Or if I did stand out, speak out about something, it would be behind closed doors
What was it?
In a way that wouldn't necessarily change anything.
So wait. Please do not tell me you're hiding behind the assumption of Black fragility to not give details of your story. Please do not tell me that is what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So I think just
what
more
happened?
Thinking through in the moment.
Of what?
When the event is actually happening.
What event?
How I would say and do things differently.
Like?
And then I had another thought.
Did you have another thought? Oh gosh, do you have room?
Dr. Rad, on what you just asked about something recently, but it has escaped me.
Okay. Yeah.
So I apologize. If it comes back to me, I'll come off.
Oh, okay, great. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Thank you, Aaron.
For what? Thank you for nothing. There was nothing.
I think one of the
that was the Seinfeld of responses.
Important capacities for white people to develop and will and skill, right, is to develop that capacity to speak up in those moments.
Yeah, white people inherently, naturally lack the ability to speak up when something wrong is happening. You're right. Tell me more about how white people operate.
And it's
but be careful. Be careful you don't say anything that might, harm the people who aren't white in the audience, because we have to look out for them. They need our protection, right? Okay.
It's hard, and we can do it.
Yeah, it's hard, but we can do it. Yeah, it's difficult for white people to stand up when something wrong is going on, because they're white. They don't know how. It's really difficult work to gain that skill. Yeah, I understand. Okay. Anybody else? Anything?
Someone else. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yeah.
My name is Tiffany Kaiser. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I identify racially as Black, and I identify ethnically across the spectrum of ethnicities.
Wow, that's absolutely meaningless. Great. What do you have to say?
It is hard for me to perceive or act in ways as a person of color where I notice whiteness and do not disrupt or take more of the labor to move along, as a classroom teacher, to move along the meeting in a grade level team discussion.
By chance, do you have an example?
Whereas an administrator in an administrator discussion, it's important that for me to notice and name whiteness means to sometimes be okay with decentering the labor that I've been conditioned to provide as a woman.
What?
And also as a woman of color, for male educators and for educators that identify as white or are perceived and benefit from whiteness.
Okay, well, golly, can you give us an example of one of these instances where you had the tough labor to have to correct or disrupt the whiteness around you?
Mm-hmm.
So being okay with caring for my colleague as not enabling their own growth, to recognize their own whiteness and work in their own skill and will, but knowing, repositioning the decentering of my labor and the centering of their labor as a form of love and care for my colleagues to grow in their, for my white colleagues to grow in their own racial awareness, racial identity formation, and cognition about themselves as a raced educator. And
a raced educator. Boy, okay, I take it back. I'm learning something new every day. What exemplifies a raced educator from a otherwise regular educator? White people need to learn about how to embrace their racial identity. You want white people to dwell on white identity. Are you kidding me?
And how their race is always in the room.
Their race is always in the room. Oh, okay. Well, tell me more about how race defines someone.
And how their race is always a mediator to how they understand their pedagogy and practice.
Oh, okay. So people who have a particular race possess an inherent understanding or perspective on the world. And you know that before ever talking to them, even not even knowing their name or even their pronouns, but you know that beforehand because of their skin color. Okay, so anytime you meet a white teacher, you already know how they think in some way, shape, or form. Okay, all right. I wonder what would happen if a white person said the same thing about our speaker to her face. That they know something about the way that they think and the quality of their thoughts because of her skin color. I wonder what she would say to someone who made such a declaration to her. I wonder if there's any words that our speaker might apply to such a person.
Thank you, Tiffany. Really powerful and a lot there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it was powerful. It was quite a gut punch to the sensibilities I've been brought up with. But hey, what do I know?
I could add. So my name is Evan Glazer. I am, my pronouns are he, him, and his. My racial, I identify as white. Okay, well, thank goodness I wasn't able to tell otherwise. Tiffany, your remarks really spoke to me. I have like a deep desire to carry the labor.
To carry the labor. Oh, okay. What does that mean to you, Evan?
When there are difficult moments where a white colleague is struggling with something. And
struggling with something, just anything, like what, opening a jar of pickles, like what?
Sometimes where I struggle is like I may not pick it up, because of my own privilege or my own implicit bias of recognizing that there is, that someone might be marginalized and I may not recognize it.
Oh, okay. Do you recognize it when somebody says that they've had their feelings hurt? Is that when you recognize it? Because otherwise it was a complete nothing burger in reality. Or what? I don't know. Evan, what are you talking about? Do you have an example? Dare I hope?
So I have this, and so I actually worry a lot about my colleagues of color.
Oh.
Who
do you? How?
Who tend to take a lot of the ownership of that, pointing things out, or even leading with certain statements.
Right. So if someone tells you that something has happened, or someone tells you that something that was said was wrong, you step back. But you feel bad that you can't detect what other people are finding to be offended by. Okay. All right.
And I feel like, I feel like I always want to own a portion of that responsibility. So
you want to own responsibility for someone else deciding that something bothered them, even if you had nothing to do with it. Okay. Again, dare I ask for an example? Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
So that my colleagues of color
Yeah.
Don't. I mean, it must be exhausting to feel like you always have to explain why something may be insulting.
It must be exhausting, constantly having to piece out secret messages in between the lines of a cookbook every day that normal people around them don't otherwise see or hear, but somehow other people that have a particular skin color can detect in a space that promotes microaggressions and so on and so forth, right?
I think to myself, like, why is it a person of color has to explain this?
I don't know, Evan. Why don't you explain it? I mean, if you're just going to take a back seat to your own critical thinking and take on face whatever anybody tells you is a problem, even something that you witnessed yourself, but someone came to you afterwards to tell you that it was a bad thing, I don't know. I don't know. What can you possibly do? Heck, Evan, why are you even in the position you're in? I mean, I'm assuming you're an educator, correct? Okay. If after all this time, if after all this practice and involvement and career, if you are still unable to tell when someone says something offensive, maybe you should just not be there, because obviously you're contributing to the problem by passively allowing these things to occur. So what exactly, how are you useful again?
Why can't I explain this?
I don't know.
How do I position myself in a way to recognize that more?
I don't know.
So
what do you do?
That's part of my own growth. I do worry a lot about the emotional toll that my colleagues of color carry with them.
Yes. You know the emotional stability of the people around you on the basis of their skin color. Okay. I got you.
Because they are the ones that I observe that tend to do the laboring and to do the explaining.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. I mean, in some ways I'm grateful, but in other ways it just doesn't sit well with me.
Oh, okay. Well, what are you going to do about it? Huh? Oh, okay. So you just in a perpetual state of guilt. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
And Evan, can you just talk a little more? Because I really appreciate the honesty with which you're sharing. Can you talk a little bit more about perhaps what keeps you from whatever feels like the barriers to you kind of speaking up in the way?
Well, obviously it's whiteness, right? Obviously it's whiteness and the privilege that comes with whiteness. And, obviously, I mean, what else could it be?
I mean, I think it's, maybe my lack of awareness to step in. Like, honestly, if someone nudged me on the side and said, Evan, speak up.
About what? Could one of these grown adults at least provide an example of what they are talking about?
I would. So sometimes it just goes right over my head.
What does, Evan? What goes over your head? Give us an instance where something went over your head and you had to have it pointed out to you after the fact. I mean, you're confessing your sin as it is. Why not give us an example?
And the fact that it goes right over my head is like an acknowledged blind spot.
What
it shouldn't go over my head? I should be able to just grab it and realize it's something's happening that isn't right.
Like what?
So it's not a fear. It's not a fear of speaking up. It's more of being able to capture it in the moment.
Oh, okay. Capture what? What's something that you have since learned is a problem to catch that you didn't catch the first time? Now, this is all part of your personal growth, okay? So why don't you help me to understand what I need to look out for, given the fact that I'm white and I obviously share the same blind spots you do because you're white? I mean, that would be very helpful to me, Evan. You are a teacher, are you not? You are an educator, are you not? You provide examples and data to your students, do you not? Are you able to give that here?
Yeah.
And sometimes just not being able to capture it.
Yeah.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm making an inference or assumption from there that it's not necessarily noticing that something happened that could use you to stand up for it. And I think that so go ahead if I'm incorrect there, or either way.
What?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
What?
So it's yeah, I mean, it could be my own ignorance or lack of observation of something that may feel hurtful to another colleague that I wouldn't necessarily recognize due to my own whiteness.
Such as?
And a deep desire to want to be able to pick up on those things.
Okay, so even someone who is just desperate to be the good guy, desperate to get past his own whiteness, can't get past his own whiteness. It's almost like it's just a part of who you are that just can't go away, and you'll always carry it, and someone will always hold you to account for it, and nothing you do will ever cure yourself of it. Golly, Evan, what can you possibly do? I mean, I guess you're just stuck forever. Just keep apologizing forever. That's all you can do.
Because they may not I may not perceive them to be hurtful.
Is it because they're not hurtful? Or is it because sometimes someone else's feelings are their own responsibility? Could that be it, Evan? Could that be it? Could it be?
For white people.
But
wanting to really see that it could be incredibly hurtful to a person of color.
Oh, okay. Well, like what? You must have an example. Like?
So what you're speaking to really is this, what this session is about, really.
Is it? What is this session about? Okay, I'm going to wrap up after this. Once we find out what this session is about, I'm done, because I think I've heard enough.
But the pervasiveness and the seeming invisibility of whiteness, and I can share that that I absolutely, having been doing this work for a very long time, continue to be in situations where I only recognize later, or if someone else has pointed it out, that there's whiteness, and I the strategy that I've been trying is just to try to keep noticing it at all the time, because it is there all the time and in so many ways. And so really working to notice it is that's work we have to do as white people.
Yes. The devil is everywhere, and he tempts everyone to sin. Be aware of it all the time. Look around every corner, every tree, every drop of water from the sky. The devil is there. You simply need to look hard enough, and you will find him. Be aware. Be aware. Okay, well, that is all I have the tolerance to take in today. And I think I'm going to be done with this video, this particular presentation at least, now. So there you go. I don't know that I need to add any further commentary. You heard what they had to say for themselves and about themselves. They are all apparently educators, either administrative or teachers themselves. They are associated with this organization that accepts federal funds and ultimately advises schools. And And if you've never listened to one of my shows before, and I could understand why not, again, just take these sort of scripts of the words that they were saying here and switch the words around. Switch white for black. person of color for white people, etc., back and forth. And ask yourself, what would you say if someone said that to you as a grown adult in this day and age, as someone in a position of power over children and as an educator in a school in America under the Civil Rights Act of 1964? You tell me what you would think. And I'll just leave it at that. Everyone, I got to go. I got to go back to work. I appreciate y'all coming out for this follow-up. If you'd like to see more from me, you can find me here Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I'll go over another off-brand TED Talk this week, as scheduled, with Drunken Uncle, as he and I discover, apparently, what a pineapple can teach us about life. I know I'm not talking about Drunken Uncle, but I'm referencing him. And as well, you can find me on Sundays for the actual Sunday stream at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where I'll go over something. I don't plan it ahead of time. I kind of find out for myself on Saturday. So hope to see you then. I hope you're all having a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week. I hope you are all safe and well. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. Have a good day, everyone, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.